The final countdown. If you're a cold climate, you should have already figured that it would be advantageous for you to install a window. That's how you would get your heat during heating. And then assuming that window would be covered like the insulated wall, you'd be able to keep that heat in during cooling. Now, a hot climate, you probably should have planned to not install a window. You're trying to keep heat out during heating. So yeah, if you put a window in, that's not going to help. All right, all the heat will be able to come in, the visible light, and then through the greenhouse effect, you get a bunch of heat inside. Hot climates, you chose not to install a window. I'm going to demo this virtual final heat flow lab sheet demo. I'm going to demo this as a cold climate. Okay, so I'm going to look at this as in like my final home, my final data set is my final home with a window. Okay, and I'm going to compare it to my intermediate house without the window. Okay, hot climates, you are comparing your intermediate results without the window to what would have been your house if you would have installed a window for the final test. For the purpose of my demo, I got polystyrene foam thick. That's still the same from the intermediate. First thing you got to do, make a graph. I'm going to start my selection here in row 65. Lag. I think Nora hacked the mainframe. Nora. Oh, there it is. All goofed up like it was in the intermediate. Okay, thanks, Sheets. So I'm going to have to reselect my data. Look, time in the series in the Y. Sheets needs to go back to elementary school. Add x-axis. Select data range. Okay, I'm reselecting my time starting in row 65 with that one column heading. So that means every time you select your other data sets, need to start in the same row. Am I going to have to reselect this temp? F63. What? Come on, dude. No wonder you guys are like, you have me going into your data and you're like, hey, come on, guys. You can't select your data way up here in row 63. Well, you probably never did. Jeez, now I feel bad. Row 65, just like I selected my times. I'm going to add in my other series, the other temperatures. If I selected my time in my first temperature data set in row 65, which row should I select my second temperature data set from? This one, row 65. Ooh, what's it missing? Is it missing anything? Would Mr. Phillips be happy with this graph? Would he give me a high five? Mr. Phillips, do you give high fives? Let's put some data point dots in there. We need to bring up our vertical or y-axis min. Our max, I think we'll keep the max. All right, now we can start playing around with grid lines, minor grid lines. If your major axes grid lines are counting by fives, what should your minor count be? 4. If your vertical axis is counting by twos, 72, 74, 76, 78, what should your minor grid line count be so that you're counting by ones? Well, 1. Notice like my x-axis is starting at what, 3, 4? No, 2, 3, 4, 5. Where's 0 and 1? Well, that usually happens. You go back to setup, you uncheck this box, use row 63 as headers, and there you go. Our titles, we have none. What would be appropriate graph titles here? All right, and then we gotta get some meaningful key or legend labels here. Horizontal axis title, it's time in minutes. And our vertical axis is temperature in degrees Fahrenheit. Okay, delta T's, you people know how to do this. This is your delta T's, not for the intermediate. You've already done those. These are the delta T's with for your final home. Zoinks! All right, on to the conclusions. What climate did you choose? Yes, cold. All right, what were my goals again? Let's rethink our goals because you're trying to conclude whether adding a window actually helped you achieve your goals or come closer to achieving your goals. If you chose not to add a window because you're a hot climate, you're pretty much concluding whether you made the right choice. What are our goals? Well, in cold climate, during heating, you're trying to gain as much heat as possible. So you're trying to maximize that temperature change. You're just going to put in single words just to fly through this here. And I'm trying to minimize cooling. I don't want the house to cool down. I'm in a cold climate, man. I'm trying to survive. It's about survival. Net overall, I'm trying to maximize that. That means if I start at 72, I'm trying to end at 90. Okay. On the other hand, hot climates are, let's say if you're hot climate, you're kind of doing the opposite. You're trying to minimize your heating. I mean, come on now. If you're in the desert, I mean, why would, did I misspell that? Minimize. Nice. Minimize. If you're in a desert, you know, during the middle of the day, what are you trying to heat up your home? Come on, man. What's the matter with your brain? Cooling. Trying to maximize cooling. Any heat that does get in, you're trying to get it out. And then at the very end, you're trying to minimize the net, the overall temperature change. If you start at 72 without some kind of air conditioner thing, the best you can do is stay at 72. So have your net change is 0. All right, that's minimizing. All right, in the Windows Final Planning Google Sheet, I stated that I believed a window, because I'm in a cold climate, that it would help my house's ability to achieve its climate goals. If you're in a hot climate, of course, you should have believed that a window would have hurt you or your house's ability to achieve its climate goals, rather. All right, so cold climate, of course, therefore, I chose to then add a window. If I were a hot climate, I would have thought a window would have hurt my house's ability to achieve its climate goals, so I would have not added a window. All right. That is important, making these selections and doing them correctly, because number 4, the question for number 4 changes depending on what you actually, the decisions that you made. All right. So again, I'm a cold climate. I think a window would help, so I decided to add one. All right. So compare then your intermediate house without window to your final house with window. This is in terms of a cold climate. In terms of your cold climate, your climate goals stated above, which house performed better, your intermediate without the window or your final with the window? Or was their performance the same? Well, for heating, again, I'm trying to maximize heating. So I'm trying to gain as much heat as possible. Did a window help me gain more heat? All right. Well, in my final, I gained 10.5 with a window. That's quite a bit. In the intermediate, without the window, I only gained 72 half, a half. Okay, so yeah, it definitely helped. So for heating, my final house with window performed better. All right, my reasoning, again, this is science, people. Provide the numbers. Bazingo. All right, cooling. I'm trying to minimize cooling, so I'm trying to keep in as much heat as possible and have as close to 0 cooling temperature change as possible. In my final home with window, it cooled down, well, none, 0, had a cooling temperature change 0. My intermediate, it went from 72.5 to 0. So they performed the same. All right. Why is that? How's that possible, Mr. Phillips? Is that black magic? Is that witchcraft? Performance is the same. No, it isn't. It's because during cooling, as I stated several times throughout this business, during cooling, we assumed that the window would be covered, all right, so that it would essentially act like the rest of the insulated wall around it. Bazoinks! All right, nets. In a cold climate, you're trying to maximize net, so trying to get as high a net temperature change as possible. You're trying to start at, say, 72 and end as high as possible. In my final home, I ended at 10.5. Well, yeah, because I gained 10.5 and didn't lose any. So I kept it all. So in the end, I gained 10.5 degrees Fahrenheit. In my intermediate, what was my net? It was 72.5 minus 72. It's just a half. So yeah, that's a bonus right there. So my my final house with window performed better. Now in a hot climate, okay, minimize, maximize, minimize. You believe a window would hurt. Ow! Oh. And so you chose not to add one? All right. Compare your intermediate house without window to what would have been your final house if you would have added a window. In terms of your goals stated above, which house performed better? Your intermediate without the window or your final with window if you would have added one? If I would have added a window, it would have heated up 10.5 degrees and I would have fried in there. In a hot climate, my intermediate house performed better. Joinks. And then cooling, it did the same. It wouldn't have mattered because like during cooling, again, just like in a cold climate, a window gets covered and it's just the same as a insulated wall. No heat was able to escape. So that didn't really change the performance of the home. Performance was the same, yeah, in a hot climate. And then for net overall, well, yeah, that's no good. It wouldn't have been good. My intermediate did better if I were in a hot climate. My final with window would have heated up 10.5 degrees Fahrenheit. Okay, and that would not have been good. So I made the right call. You made the right call, coach. If you have a house in a hot climate, you should not use a window to help you achieve your goals. That would not have been good. Explain why a window does not help a hot climate home achieve its climate goals. Use keywords from assignment number 6 in your response. Wonder what assignment number 6 is. Maybe the greenhouse effect? Goink! Okay, if I have a house in a cold climate, I should use a window to help me achieve my goals. Why is that? Explain why a window helps a cold climate achieve its climate goals. Use keywords from assignment number 6 in your response. Wonder what assignment number 6 is. The greenhouse effect. And that's it. That's a wrap.